Hello, everyone. I'm Miss Nicole. I'm the teen librarian at the Grange Public Library. And I'm so happy that today we have several presenters from Spotlight College Advising that are here to help give you a little bit of a presentation where we are in terms of college and in the wake of COVID-19 and answer your questions. So we have Kim Anderson. Can you wave, Kim? Kendall Hayes. Wave, Kendall. Georgia. I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, Georgia.
Bepley. Okay. Hello.
And did we have Shelley with us today or not?
No.
Okay. And then before I turn it over to them, I just wanted to ask real quick if everybody can test their Q&A box by typing in how many people are watching, if it's just you or if there's additional family members, just a number of how many people are watching at home. It will help us know how many people are actually viewing this, as well as to test your chat. And with that, I will turn it over to our presenters.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We are really excited to be with you this evening. I think most of all, I was excited to get a shower and have my hair actually look clean. I know with all of us working at home, it's been a little bit challenging to get a shower in and look presentable. So tonight is going to be a mixed presentation. It'll be about 30 minutes of us talking to you about some things that we have prepared on slides. And then the last portion will be a Q&A. So as Nicole said, you can just put your questions into the Q&A box. We're going to wait to address all the questions until the end. So some of the things that you may have as hot buttons, we will likely cover during the slides, but we will review the questions and get back to you on anything that you have there. So Nicole already introduced us, and I also just wanted to mention Spotlight College Advising. We are based in the Chicago suburbs. We work with students from 9th grade all the way through senior year, helping them apply for college. So combined, we have about 40 years of experience. We are passionate about helping students really just navigate the journey in a positive and professional way. So without further ado, I'm going to jump in. Oops, hold on. I can't have the chat box open, I think is what it's telling me. Uh-oh. Okay. So we are going to start off by talking a little bit about just kind of the overview sort of the COVID situation. I think for most people rightfully so are focused on the medical part of it, right? And we have a lot of people working and putting their lives on the line to make sure we're all safe. And that is of the utmost importance. And I think the thing that we're focused on. From a college perspective, there are a lot of things going on in the higher ed space that particularly for sophomores, juniors, and seniors are things that we just want to make sure families understand and are taking into consideration as they're making some of their decisions. So, things for us, part of our job is to be on top of all of this. So we're reading things, webinars, listservs, podcasts. We're doing things daily just to make sure we are on top of everything that's going on to help our clients navigate the process as efficiently as possible. So the thing that you should know is, so we started doing webinars, I think probably the first ones would have been in mid-March, right after this all sort of broke. And I think the tone of things has changed dramatically as things have evolved. So things that we talk about tonight may actually be different 2 weeks from now. So I guess I will say to you, as you're listening to this, just know that the way what's happening today may be very different tomorrow. So it's always good to stay apprised of kind of current situations as they go. So, one of the biggest things is the question, and we're going to touch on a little bit tonight, but we don't have the answers to, but are the seniors actually going to get to go to college this fall? They've been waiting and planning and preparing for 2 years. And the reality is every school has a different answer right now. I think that Purdue, Washington, and Lee, University of San Diego are three that I know have kind of come out front and said, we're opening campus in the fall. We don't know what it's going to look like. It's going to be a hybrid of something. We might start earlier. We might, skip fall break, go straight to Thanksgiving. But the reality is that for most of these schools, it's hopeful, right? They don't necessarily know what's going to happen. So we don't have those specific answers, but know that the schools are definitely working on that. I would say for the most part, the schools that we've heard from and listened to webinars, they are looking at mid-July, early July to try and make a decision. So mid-June to early July, I guess, is probably a better range. So some of the things that will happen along the way is, because decisions aren't going to be made until summer, is some of our seniors are really starting to consider maybe looking at a second choice school that's located a little closer to home. And one of the things that I try and advise them is take into consideration where the school that you're intended to attend in the fall is located. Consider what the medical situation has been in that state. Obviously, we know New York has been a hotbed. I would not want to be having to be the president of NYU and having to deal with how that's all going to happen in the fall. But I guess that's why those guys get paid the big bucks, right? They will figure it out. But we try and encourage families to kind of consider that factor. And the other element that's really important is to think about the financial viability of the schools. So we know that this COVID crisis has been very detrimental to the higher ed industry. I think University of Illinois had projected that they were losing about $158 million from the crisis. I read something on Inside Higher Ed today. George Washington University in DC thinks they're going to lose 100 to 300 million in their upcoming school year as a result of the crisis. So big bottom line ramifications. So we like to tell our families, if you're going to be evaluating, look at the schools. There's a couple different places that we like to use to recommend looking at the viability of the schools. So the financial responsibility composite score kind of goes from -1 to a +3. And most of the schools that are, 1.5 and higher are considered financially responsible and they're doing things right. There's also the Barron's financial grade that you can look at that will rate schools. And the reality is that higher ed has been in kind of a tailspin for a while. Some of the schools, particularly the smaller schools, have not been meeting their financial targets for a few years. And we suspect that a lot of these issues are going to just force consolidation and some real retooling, I guess, on their part to be able to deliver a really strong program for the freshmen in the fall and their existing population. So we encourage you to kind of look at those benchmarks. And then some of these, the data can be a little hard to get current on, right? This is all happening in real time. So some of the other things that you can look at are some of their enrollment data trends, like the percent, how many students are enrolling now relative to the last, say, 3 to 5 years, and also consider their international student population. The international students at most schools pay double. And what happens is a lot of these students were forced to fly home if they were existing students, and the freshmen can't get here because of visa office issues. So some schools have said they will allow the freshmen to attend online, and it allows the university to retain those dollars. But in many cases, those students will, the international numbers, I suspect, and Kendall and George, I think, agree, will be way down for this coming year. So it's a good thing for getting more U.S. domestic students into school, but it's not so good for the bottom line of the university. So that sort of, for us, kind of the most important part is you want to pick a school where your student can start and finish, and that they're going to have the research dollars the dollars available for research and staff and facilities and all the things that it takes to run a university. So that is kind of just a general overview of where we're at. And I'm going to throw it over to Kendall, and she's going to talk to you a little bit. So the slides are sort of broken out by the grades. And so we'll do a kind of a recap at the end, but Kendall's going to talk about implications for seniors to start.
Hi, everyone. So happy to be here this evening. I think one of the first things you need to be aware of as far as implications for seniors are concerned is that the waitlist movement is super hot right now. The waitlist movement started earlier than typical, and I've had a handful of clients be offered positions off of the waitlist because this second, colleges are really concerned about making their class, their entering class. They're really nervous about what the future holds and if they're going to be able to make their class. So I think the one thing that you need to keep in mind about the wait list is that if you're offered a position coming off of the wait list and into the entering class, you will likely be a full pay student, and that's a big chunk of change to swallow. So it might mean foregoing or leaving a school or an offer of that at a school that had merit-based money. You may be foregoing that because I think anyone that's taken off the wait list can expect to pay the full ticket price. But who knows, could open some opportunities that wouldn't be there otherwise, which is really cool. And I think, like Kim said, not having that international student population could open up a handful of opportunities, more than a handful, but also could be a financial detriment to the college. So who knows? I don't know. Win-win for some and a lose-lose for others. As far as will schools honor the deferral and gap year requests? A lot of colleges right now, not many people have considered a deferral in the past. And what that means is, hey, I'm excited to be accepted at this college, but I'm going to defer coming for 1 year because I want to pursue this, that, and the other. Those deferral requests annually from year to year in a normal year are very few and far between. It's pretty rare for a student to defer their college admission. But given COVID-19, people are worried. They're nervous about going back to school. Colleges, many of them don't really have a good game plan in place as to how they're going to open up their college campuses safely and keeping everyone's health in check. So there's just so much unknown, so much uncertainty, and it's causing a lot more people to consider deferring. And I think what you really have to keep in mind is what is the deferral policy at the college of your choosing? Because every college's deferral policy is going to differ. It's going to vary drastically from one school to the next. One thing is for sure, and that is that most colleges won't consider a deferral request until you've deposited. So if you haven't deposited at a school yet and you're anxious about that, feel free to inquire about the deferral policy at that particular school before you deposit. And just know, however, if you want to pursue the deferral route, that you have to deposit before they'll even entertain that request. There's often an application process with the deferral or a gap year request. Deferral and gap year kind of one and the same, except typically a gap year is a very organized program. Whereas a deferral, you could be deferring because of a medical concern or some change, in your path. But typically, an application process for the deferral, they may or may not grant your wish, and that's something that you have to be aware of. I think you have to know your why. You have to know why you're deferring. And my guess is, because I don't want to take online classes, that's probably not going to cut it. Some schools may honor that request. I would say that the great majority are probably not going to honor the request to defer just because you don't want to take classes online. So, all that being said, is community college a good option for your freshman year? If you really don't want to take classes online, you don't want to give up that experience, hey, wouldn't it be a great idea to take some of your general ed requirements at a community college? Certainly a viable option, certainly a very economical option. However, know that the second you take a college level class or a class for credit, college level credit, you are now a transfer student. You're not a freshman any longer. So you are likely, now you are reapplying to the college of your choosing as a transfer student, you're likely foregoing your merit-based scholarship that you may or may not have given up, and your financial aid package will have to be reevaluated as well. So is it a good option? I don't know. It might be the perfect option for you, but just know that there are certainly ramifications for doing that. Let's see here. I think there's another, I think there's another bullet. Okay, so cost considerations. Let's say you defer. Let's say you want to defer, you pay a deposit, your deferral application is accepted. You may or may not be electing to go to the community college to take classes. If you do that, you know that you are now a transfer student, not a freshman. And I think before you do that, you just need to consider the cost implications of doing that. You know, if you're taking online classes, maybe you're deferring and you decide to work a part-time job. How much money are you going to make in that year? And you know, does it make sense to make hypothetically, you know, $5,000 working a part-time job during your year that you've deferred, when you've given up, you know, a $12,000 per year merit-based scholarship? That's something that you have to take into consideration. Or, you know, $48,000 scholarship over the course of 4 years. So does it really make sense, you know, to try to earn a little extra money during a year that you defer? Just know that that could adversely affect your merit-based scholarship. The other thing that you want to keep in mind is that if you defer for a year, you're putting on hold for a year your opportunity to go on and graduate and get a job and earn an income. So you're delaying that process by a year. So just a couple of implications to consider, to kind of roll around in your head before you make some major decisions about whether or not you're going to try to go to college in the fall. That being said, I'm going to roll it on to Georgia, who's going to talk a little bit about the implications for juniors.
Hi, I'm Georgia. Glad everybody is joining us tonight. You know, before I talk about juniors, I'm going to talk a little bit more about seniors and some more things that seniors should consider when they're making this final decision on what they're going to do. So one of the things I would look at is, what is the current behaviors of the colleges? You know, what are they doing to show that they really want you and that they're concerned of your situation during COVID-19. So are they communicating with you by email and by phone, those schools that have accepted you? Are they allowing virtual visits so you're able to see the college again or maybe for the first time? Are they setting up opportunities for you to chat with current students? That's a great way for you to learn a little bit more about the school. You know, some students just did not get the opportunity to go visit the school, so they are really looking for these opportunities. So those are really good ways. It sort of shows the character of the university. And then, are they being flexible to your current situation? Were you really, was your family highly affected by this pandemic? And what's the university doing to sort of help you in that situation? Are they being transparent about what's going to be happening next year in the fall? I mean, a lot of them don't really know what they're doing yet, but, you know, like Kim said, Purdue kind of put it out there. Today I saw something from Creighton that put something out there. So, you know, most of them are talking that there's going to be some type of hybrid situation, could be fully online, could, you know, they just don't know yet. But, you know, if they're being really transparent and they're putting their ideas out there, you're getting an idea of what's kind of in the future. And also, what are they doing to protect you from the virus? Are they going to be, you know, putting people in single rooms if they go back to campus? How are they cleaning things, social distancing, and that type of thing? You know, what are the health facilities at the university? So those are all good things to be thinking about as a senior. And one other thing that I think is really important is I think a lot of these universities are going to have some form of online curriculum. And if they do, you know, they weren't set up for that, just like the high schools weren't. So a lot of them are looking into making their online curriculum more dynamic. So that's a question you can ask, like, what are they working on to make it a better interface for the student and make it more dynamic? So that's for the seniors. Now juniors, you know, for forever, juniors have often applied to schools and have not been on some of the campuses. And so sometimes juniors don't go to the campuses till, you know, fall, winter, spring. I think there's going to be opportunities for the juniors to visit these schools, probably, you know, hopefully in the fall, but if not, in the spring, as they get more control over how we're handling this virus. So, you know, but in the meantime, what can you do when you can't visit? So, you know, the virtual tours are really important. Talking to your admissions rep, you know, they're going to be able to answer a lot of questions for you, and a lot of them are very, very willing and wanting to talk to you about their school. I would look at the curriculum, course catalog, see what types of courses they're offering, and you know how they're handling the COVID situation, of course, clubs and organizations. And I would check the Chamber of Commerce in the area. The towns that are usually surrounding a university are often very close niche with the university, and so seeing what's going on with that town is often important too. And last thing I would say for juniors, are they being flexible with admissions? Are they going test optional? Are they going to be pushing deadline dates? You know, those types of things are important. It's showing that they care about the students and they're trying to be as flexible as possible with the situation going on. So talking about test optional, Kim has a bullet here, what's happening with the ACT and SAT testing. So as you know, or if you're a junior, you would know, spring testing has been canceled with the ACT and the SAT, and even some of the summer testing as well. So currently, if you are registered for ACT or SAT as a junior, you are getting priority if you have never taken a test. They should have sent you an email by now telling you when you will be able to register, and I'll go over some of those that information for SAT and ACT in a minute. But they are giving priority to the juniors, so which is great. They need to do that. They're doing everything they can to help those students get some testing in. One thing I would suggest is do not ask for a refund. If you're already in there, don't ask for a refund. What you want to do is reschedule. You want to stay in the system so they know that you haven't tested yet, or you need another test date. Perhaps you've only tested once, you want to test twice. So you want to stay in that system so they know you're there. And then when they come up, like SAT, I think it's May 26th, that week, they're going to be allowing you to reschedule. You want to be on it like that because the demand is really high, and you're going to have to be really flexible with the locations. They may fill quickly. It may not be near your home. You may have to travel a bit. You're just going to have to see when you get into that situation.
Just to be clear too, the ACT has not canceled their June testing. They're still, they're saying that they're going to leave it up to individual states. So if you are registered for a June ACT, know that it could be canceled. I think they said they were going to probably talk, but like the beginning of June, but who knows if they'll, you know, how to the wire that's going to get, but just know that it's still on.
Well, it's interesting. ACT set up a June 13th date for the April 4th date that was canceled. And they actually even have, if that's canceled, I think it's June 20th or something, which I don't know, that's so close, you know, in a pandemic situation. But they are working to get kids to take this test. So the reschedule is for June 13th. The dates after that are July 18th, September 12th, October 24th, and December 12th. And what's interesting with ACT is the September date, they are now going to try an at-home online remote proctoring exam. So that'll be the first time nationwide where they'll be doing that. And so, we're going to see what that brings. And, it's the perfect timing for the pandemic. They were working on that regardless. So, it looks like a lot of these things are going to be going in that direction. Another interesting thing about the ACT is, and this was pre-pandemic, they have added what they call section retakes. So after you have taken one full test with all the components of the test, and let's say you don't like your math score, ACT is allowing you to retake perhaps just the math score, or let's say you don't like your math and your English score, you can retake those sections and then have a super score where they're taking the highest points from each of those and putting together your super score. So there are no limits on how many times you can retake a section. I believe you can only take 3 resection tests in one sitting. And the tricky part, though, is we don't know how the colleges are going to respond to this. That's the tricky part. So they were all sort of thinking about it. Some of them were like, yeah, we're okay with it. And then the pandemic hit. And with that, they, of course, they've been focused on getting their senior class in place. So I think time will tell on how colleges will, either take or not take these resection tests, but they are available with the ACT. SAT, they were canceled in March. The April state test for Illinois, May and June, unfortunately. So May 26th, you can reschedule. I was going to say register. You can reschedule, and the new dates are August 26th. They added an additional date of September 26th, October 3rd, November 7th, and December 5th. And again, the priorities will be for juniors who have not taken the test yet. Let's see. And then, there's what's going on with test optional. So a lot of schools are looking at this situation and they're saying, hey, this is just, overwhelming for these families and these students. And a lot of them are in really difficult situations. We want to be as flexible as possible. So about 72 schools so far, it might have changed by now, but I think that was the count last week, have now added a test optional way of applying to school. So what does test optional mean? Test optional means that you can either give a score, let's say you've taken it once, you can add that score to your admissions package, or you cannot put in any standardized testing score at all. And it's a really nice opportunity, especially for those students who are not good test takers, but are good students in class. But what I would say is just know if you are going to apply test optional to a school, the other parts of your application become really important because now they're going to be looking probably more from a holistic point of view at all the different components. So they're going to be looking at your grades, of course, first and foremost, and are you upward trending? What type of rigor have you taken in your course load? Have you really challenged yourself? They're going to be looking at those teachers' letters of recommendation. They're going to want to really see how you are in the classroom and are you a leader in the classroom? Are you asking questions? Are you asking for extra help? Extracurriculars, leadership, those will be looked at. Your essay becomes important. That gives them another insight into who you are. And standout factors. So if you're applying to a highly selective school, how are you unique to another student who's applying that may have similar academic levels as you? What makes you unique? So, that could be called a standout factor. And then last, some schools have interviews, and some of them, maybe didn't use them as strongly before, but now they might be. It just is dependent upon the school. So test optional, that's been happening for a while. This movement to go test optional to a lot of schools, there's over 1,000 schools in our nation that are actually currently test optional. And there's a really great website where you can look up those schools. It's called fairtest.org. So check that out for who already was test optional and who is becoming test optional. Do you guys have anything to add on that, or are you good? Okay. And then APs. So we're in the midst of AP right now, right? Started today. And, you know, of course, it has gone online for those that don't know. It used to be a 3.5-hour test. It's now a 45-minute test online. And, you know, all the complications that come with that to start, but it's not going to be an easier test. It's just going to be a different test. So your students really need to prepare. And it is an open book and open note test. And so the students really need to have that information organized. They should not just be pulling out their notes for the first time when they're getting on the computer to take the test. It is not multiple choice. It's short answer and short essay. And so there are some things on the collegeboard.org where you can get a like a booklet on how to best prepare. There is like a little YouTube on preparation steps to take. And I would highly suggest your kids do that. Please don't just get on the day that you're taking the test, because there are nuances to how to do it and what they're looking for and how to turn in your written notes and things like that. So, you know, just make sure your students are doing that. They're still scoring it on a 1 to 5 scale. And the universities and the colleges are kind of waiting to see how the quality of the results come out. Some of them have already said, yeah, well, we're going to continue with the 1 to 5 scale to see if you can get college credit for it. But others are kind of waiting to see how this new online formatting goes. So we'll see how that comes out as well. There was already a lot of hubbubaloo on Twitter. Was it Twitter today, Kim? Yeah, you know, possible cheating and all this. So we'll see how that all plays out. And then let's see, SAT subject tests. So SAT subject tests are, you know, you take these to show a command of a subject, and they have become less and less required at schools. Some of the big boys and the tougher STEM schools often required certain SAT subject tests, and now they're becoming recommended instead of required. And so what I would say, if you are considering taking an SAT subject test and you are a junior, the most important thing you can do right now is get your ACT or SAT in first before you sign up for the SAT subject test. You have to get the full test in first if you want that as part of your application, because there is going to be a lot of demand for test time. So that should be your priority. And then if you feel like that would be good for you to add to your application, or the school is highly recommending it, see if you can get a test date in there. I think that's all I have on testing. So I think back, Kim, or
Yep.
oh no, Kendall, you're going to talk about what sophomores should consider.
Yep. Yeah. And, you know, honestly, I don't think that things are going to change drastically for sophomores. I'm not terribly concerned about, you know, my sophomore clients. I think that they're going to be okay in the midst of COVID-19. The one, you know, kind of the one exception to that rule may be testing strategy and timing. And I would say a couple of things about timing. If you happen to be taking a very advanced course load, you have an advanced track in math in particular, or you're just one of those students or families that are just super eager to take your standardized tests, get them out of the way early in your junior year, then my recommendation for you would be to go ahead and register for the first test date available. And kind of piggybacking on what I think Georgia just mentioned was that once you're in the system and, you know, ACT and or SAT knows that you're trying to get a test date, then should something happen to the test date that if you secure a test date, should something happen to that test date, you're going to have top priority when registering for the next available test date. So, you know, but But if you're taking a normal or a regular level course load, it's perfectly acceptable and actually encouraged for you. I would wait. I would sit back and I would hang on, and I would wait to take that first official standardized test in the spring of your junior year. So you know, I just don't foresee a ton or a huge impact on my current sophomores who will be juniors next year. So there's that testing strategy and timeline. Obviously, please remain focused on your grades. E-learning isn't fun. I know with my 3 children who are in 4th grade, 2nd grade, and 1st grade, respectively, it's been horrendous, and I can't stand it. But it's a thing, and you know, mercifully, there's a little less emphasis. It's not going to be so detrimental having me as their teacher now. If you're a sophomore, a junior, or a senior, your priority has to be on your grades, as difficult as that might be, or as uninteresting, or as boring, or as unfun as e-learning might be right now. Please maintain your focus on your grades. That transcript is going to be first and foremost top priority, regardless. Okay.
Well, can you talk, Kendall, a little bit too about one of the questions that was just emailed to me from Nicole was about the pass-fail and kind of the you know, being evaluated in the context of your school profile.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. So I have a couple of thoughts on you know, gosh, is it an option for me to go pass-fail? Should I take the grade that I earn? And I would certainly say, to Kim's point, you're going to be evaluated in the context of your high school, right? So this is, I would not only recommend taking our advice, but also this is a great question for your guidance counselor, because they're going to have the full scope of your curriculum, of your GPA, of what your transcript looks like to date, and of what might benefit you moving forward. I would say that probably if you have a B or below, if you have below a B, I would take that pass, right? But if you're doing exceptionally well in the classroom, then I see no reason why you wouldn't want to take that or have that class for a grade. I know that some schools' policies are that you can take some of your classes for a grade and you can take all of your classes pass-fail. I don't know. Kim, Georgia, feel free to weigh in on this, because if it were me evaluating a person's transcript as a college rep, if I were evaluating someone's transcript and I noticed that in some of their classes they earned an A or a B, or if it's a percentage grade, they earned a 90 or 95, and then some of their classes they took for a pass or a pass-fail, or then that would make me really question how poorly they did in that pass-fail grade. So to me, it would raise a bit of a red flag. But please feel free, Kim, Georgia.
Right.
I agree with what you're saying.
I would too.
I think that I would assume they had a C or lower, which is why, because many of the schools are giving people the ability to switch after grades are in because of everything that's going on. I think the biggest thing for juniors to understand is that your regional admissions representative, one of their main jobs is understanding how your high school handled this COVID crisis and how they're looking at the grades. So if your school forced everybody to go pass-fail on everything, they will know that. If your school gave you the choice of a grade, they will know that. So don't worry about that. Just know that I actually feel a little sorry for the admission reps this year, because they're going to have to do a lot of extra homework to dig into these schools and figure out how those situations were handled. But otherwise, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, and I would add too that, you know, the colleges are saying they get what kind of stress students and families are under with this at-home learning. I mean, you may have, like, you know, 5 brothers and sisters running around, and how do you get stuff done? So they're taking all of that into consideration. But I would agree with both of you that, you know, it's kind of human nature to go, oh, what, you know, why is that one pass-fail and the rest aren't? But so, you know, talk to your counselor. They will be able to look at your whole transcript. And one other thing I would say too is, when you do apply for college, there is an additional information section in the Common App where you can always add, like, if you were somehow, you know, really impacted by, you know, this whole pandemic, you know, you can add a note about that, or you can add something happened with a class, or, you know, there is a section where you can kind of write things. So yeah.
Good point. Okay.
Parting advice to my sophomores, as far as, you know, starting to visit colleges virtually, it's better than nothing. I'm a huge fan of the college visit process. I think it's so critical, especially early on. It's one of the first pieces of advice that I give my freshman and my sophomore clients. Get out there and visit colleges. Hard to do that right now, but I do think that a lot of colleges are stepping up their, you know, their virtual tour game, and, you know, even their general information sessions. So make sure that you're not deterred from visiting colleges. You're just going to visit them a little differently your sophomore year. Last but not least, make it a productive summer. And Kim has some really great tips on how to do that. So take it away, Kim.
Awesome. So as we are not really sure how the state of Illinois is going to evolve, we do know for certain that most of the online programming in-person programming has been canceled. So summer programs, things that students would typically go to do to help just to expand, explore their interests, and differentiate themselves on a resume basis. So we like to talk to our families about trying to do things virtually. So one of the things that we talk about is taking some online courses. Coursera's got some phenomenal courses that are free for students to go in, and you take them online. They are from some really top-rated universities. So it's a way for your high school student to get kind of a taste of what college life might be like, but from the safety of their own bedroom. And edX, same, has some things. And then also explore your local community college. The main things that we as college counselors and the admission reps are looking for, they want to see students that are showing intellectual curiosity and really just trying to be their best in summer. So one of the other suggestions, take a coding class, doing some online research. One of the websites I found was the National Archives through the National History Museum. Some really cool stuff. These are things we talk to our students about all the time, but start a new business, kind of launch it on Etsy, explore a new hobby, you can volunteer, get a job. There's so many things, but at a minimum, everybody has gone through a lot of stress over the last couple of months. So it's okay to just, we like to say, rest, read, reflect, and revise, right? So take time for yourself as a student. When AP exams are done, or if you don't have APs, just your final exams are done, just kind of understand that reading and just reflecting on what happened, and then figure out what your plan is going to be for summer. So everyone's going to surf YouTube and spend a little time on Netflix, but understand how you can just spend some time each day making it a productive summer. So we have tons of great ideas we work with people on all the time. So we're going to launch in now to the Q&A. And I know we have a bunch in the feed, so we can start with those. Do you want me to start with the ones, Nicole, that you sent to me?
Sure.
Okay, so the one was a question about, sorry, I wrote it down over here. If my university has e-learning, can I defer a year and take classes remotely from a community college? So I think Kendall kind of addressed that. So just the highlights are, if you do, you're going in if you are a current senior and you do that, you're going in then as a transfer student. And so there are ramifications for that. And then know that if you're an existing student, many universities have different requirements. You don't know, you would want to make sure you're checking on what's going to transfer in from, let's say you're going to take some things at COD. Yeah. You want to know what's going to transfer in. Usually junior and senior year, once you get about, like when you're in your last 60 credit hours, the universities will not give you credit and look down upon you trying to take those classes elsewhere. So please, if you are considering, taking those e-learning classes, just know that regardless of your grade at the university, you want to investigate just to make sure the university will accept them.
Yep.
Anything else on that question, Georgia, Kendall, you want to say?
No, one thing I would say, if you're a current college student or even high school student, there's a program called Transferology that looks at, like if you're going to COD, to see it works with certain colleges like U of I. You can see what kind of grades or what kind of classes will transfer from like a COD to the University of Illinois. It's a nice little tool. Not all colleges are on there, but you know, it's something to look at. But I would definitely talk to the rep at school before you make any of those decisions.
Right. Okay. Next question is, how will 2020 graduates taking a gap year or deferring impact the class of 2021? One of you guys want to take that, or you want me to?
I think we could probably all talk about a little bit. You know, from the college webinar, we've been on a lot of webinars, as Commit said, and a lot of the college we have talked to and have listened to have actually said so far they haven't had a tremendous amount requesting, but keep in mind that the May 1 decision date has been pushed to June 1 for a lot of colleges. So I don't think they've actually seen all the requests yet. It is very specific to the college on what that gap year policy or deferral policy is going to be. And it's usually for a year, not a semester. So you'll want to check that with the university. But I don't think they are going to try and, you know, do whatever they can for the seniors at the jeopardy of the juniors. And I have actually heard admission reps say that you know, they are just as concerned with the junior class as they are with the senior class. And you know, my theory is, although they haven't announced this at a lot of schools, but my theory is that they will eventually put caps on if it becomes too many students asking for it, because they just wouldn't be able to financially budget or operate without putting some types of caps. But you know, it's going to be dependent upon the university. What do you girls think?
100% agree.
More. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Do you want to go to, let's go to the chat box. Do you have a timeline? Oops, sorry, I have to slide it over. Do you have a timeline in terms of when they will offer the SAT, and will the PSAT be online? So
I gave the dates. If you want, I can read the SAT dates.
I was going to say, the one that they added was the September 26th date. That
right.
was up for the canceled March, April, and May SAT. So other than that, they're going to hopefully offer them in the fall. If you go to College Board, they will have a full listing of all the dates. The PSAT, as far as we know, is not going to be online. It was unfortunate because the PSAT 9 and PSAT 10 and the National Merit for the juniors, PSAT, all got missed, right? Because school was closed. So they are not going to be making up the PSAT 9 and 10 is what we were told. The PSAT for the juniors will, I assume, be made up in the fall.
For sure. I think so.
That's the one that National Merit status and the commendation is tied to, so likely that one will be made up.
Yeah, and just so you know, I had talked about before that ACT is going to a online test in September. SAT has been working on that, but they're not committed to putting that out yet. They talk about on their website that they are developing that, but it's just I think they want to sort of get through this crisis first before they put that out there. So this pandemic is pushing a lot of things into this online world of ours. So
it is really making ACT look good, though, since ACT was in front of it, going online anyway, and they were launching this fall. So I will say kudos to ACT, because that is going to be huge for them this fall. Next question. I do not see testing locations available for the many testing locations available for the July ACT. Do you think more will open up, or should we register for what is available now?
I personally would register for what's available now. I think you're going to have to be really flexible on test location, and it just kind of depends on how badly you want to take the test and try to get that test date in. But I would take advantage of an opportunity if you have one, regardless of the location.
I agree.
My 2 cents.
There's a huge demand, built up demand. So it's may not be ideal for you, but you have to take what you can get, I think.
Right. And not to be super extreme, but I have read on a blog that people are looking at states that were not highly impacted by the coronavirus and trying to think about if they can drive there for the June ACT, which is crazy, but that's the kind of thing. And I understand some students just want to get it done, right? So, all right. Sophomores who are enraged for national merit, if you were planning on taking the SAT in August to take the edge off before the PSAT, should you try and take the SAT in September before the PSAT still, or would you sit back and see how things go?
I think they're going to give the priority to the juniors, so it's going to be tough to get the slot anyways. And, you know, as far as, I think, you know, everybody's sort of in this stress situation, and I think sometimes it's good to kind of let the kids just sit back a little bit, but they can do a lot of things at home for practicing for it instead of taking that official SAT. What do you guys
Right.
say?
No, I was just thinking when you were talking, so there's some of the test prep companies do offer online. Obviously, Khan Academy has some tests. They're a great free resource. Compass Test Prep, they're kind of new to, they're more on the North Shore right now, but they have some online offerings. I think
Nurturing Wisdom also is offering some free online test, practice tests. So.
Yeah, and then Method Test Prep is something that they do as well. Theirs, I think, are a little pricier, but those are all good online resources that you definitely should check out. If you can't, I guess my answer to that would be try and register, see if you can get in. I would try and, you know, get in. If you can't, potentially do something online. The reality is that there are a lot more National Merit finalists over the last 2, 3, 4 years. And it's not because kids have gotten more brilliant over the last 2, 3, 4 years. It's because students are just doing more of these practice tests and doing a little more prep work. So if your student is someone that wants to do that, we don't encourage prepping for the PSAT, but certainly taking that could help them. My son, who's a junior, would be doing practice tests right now. Oops, we did that. We talked about that. Okay. Online AP classes were not enjoyable. If you're an incoming junior, would you scale back and take 4 or 5 AP weighted classes and a study hall? Does it make sense to push back AP Chem or AP Bio to senior year if it looks like Illinois will not be back in the full time in the classroom this fall? The thinking is, why take a lab class if you're not doing it on site?
Geez, I think it depends a lot on what type of college you're interested in applying to. If you're applying to a highly selective school or have hopes of applying to a highly selective school, and we're talking about, you know, the Harvards, the Yales, the Georgetowns, the Vanderbilts, the Notre Dames of the world, they will want you to maximize your curriculum when possible. So to scale back, you know, in the time of COVID-19, which I can certainly appreciate because it is just brutal. Online learning is brutal in general. I really think you have to think about it in the context of the types of schools that you want to apply for. And if highly selective schools are what you're aiming for, I'd be really hesitant to recommend that you scale back on the rigor within your curriculum.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
What specific subjects within online courses would you recommend for a student? So I guess I can take that. My recommendation would be, if you're looking at doing something online for summer, I think that's what you mean by the question. I would think about what the student is interested in and what they're considering studying down in the future. If there's someone that's completely undecided, I would say maybe just explore something new and random. If someone that's a STEM kid, obviously some of the high schools have some great, I know District 86 here has a great science inquiry research module. You can do 1, 2, 3 different summers back to back. That's going to be online. But I would look at taking something that is going to either explore a new interest if you're unsure, or potentially reaffirm. Let's say you're thinking you want to go engineering, or you're thinking you perhaps want to be an architect, something that could help verify. One of my things I love the most about some of the summer program opportunities that are being canceled and some moved online is just, it helps the student really start to hone in on what they're what they like and what they're good at. One of the tests that we do with our students measures interest, aptitude, and personality, and it really helps them start to think about potential career paths. And our goal is for them to, many students are still going to start college undecided, but for them to get to a place where they at least understand what they're interested in and what they're good at. Would you, anything you want to add to that, Kendall, Georgia?
Exactly. Perfect. That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Just to let you know, we have about 5 minutes before
Okay, there's two
we
last
go
questions.
wrap up. So,
Do you foresee the ACT, SAT going away altogether for future generations after this pandemic?
No.
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 No way.
No. But I mean, to be fair, there has been this movement, you know, for test optional. For those to go completely away, the schools would all need to be test blind, where they don't look at a test score at all. But the highly selective schools are still using that. Even the ones that have gone test optional, like University of Chicago, there's still a ton of kids that put those scores in because they are, you know, sort of that hard charger, and they've been working at it, and they want to prove in another way than just their grades that test score, you know, that they're capable of doing that as well. So I would say no. I would say a lot of the smaller liberal arts schools tend to go test optional because they have the time and the resources to look at the holistic part of the whole application, all those things that I stepped through before. The large public universities, I mean, they just get so many applications that those grades and test scores are a big component of how they're evaluating. So I would say probably not, but I think more schools will continue to add test optional.
Right. And for a lot of the schools that offer the merit scholarship money, so much of it is tied to the matrix of GPA and test scores. So that would be a thing they'd have to shift off of. And then, as much as I hate to say this out loud, the rankings that a lot of the colleges care about, one of their elements is the percentage of the students that take the standardized testing right now. So the higher percentage reflects and gives them a higher ranking. So sad but true. One of the school webinars that I was on the other day, all 4 reps that were on the line agreed that that is definitely a factor in consideration when they're evaluating whether or not they want to go 100% test optional. And they dislike the rating agencies as much as the rest of the world, which I think is fascinating, but it's sort of like the beast that controls so much of their future, right? So yeah. And then the last question just is, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Last question says engineering ... highly selective. So I'm not sure what the question actually is. I guess it may be they're looking for different schools and school suggestions. And I guess I would just say that if you call us, you can definitely, I know we're getting close out of time. I put our email up there. We would be happy to have anyone reach out to us and talk to us. If you have additional questions, we offer comprehensive packages, hourly packages. We work with students all the way from, like I said, freshman year, all the way through application season. We love what we do. We would all talk about this 24/7 and really just enjoy it. So if we can help you in any way, Nicole, thank you so much. We really appreciate the opportunity.
thank you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for everyone for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Time. Very much appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night.
Okay. Bye, everybody.